live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into today's recap of the San Antonio Spurs versus the Detroit Pistons, we have our first merch drop. If you are watching this on Friday, it's tomorrow. But if you're watching this on Saturday or the days following, our new merch drop is out. We have we're not wearing our new hat. We're not doing a great job promoting, but we do have new Revved Up hats coming out, and you'll probably seen them in past videos and then also in our vlogs. And then we also have a new sweatshirt pattern coming out. And so make sure to go follow Grind Clothing Co. on Instagram to find those links to the new merch. You can also find in the description of this video the link to our merch, and then also in our YouTube bio. So it is there for your convenience. Make sure to go Revved Up 906 out and about in your community and show some love to your Revved Up boys. And we look forward to seeing you guys post some pictures of you guys in your new merch. And we designed it specifically by our own minds, the design, but it's also for you, the people. So we're looking forward to spreading the style love to the Detroit Pistons community. Well, Ryan, tonight's game was a pretty interesting matchup. It was, some would say previous to this game that it was almost like the dumpster bowl or something like that. You know, we had almost identical records to the San Antonio Spurs previous to this game. We had one more loss than them. We were 14-42. They were 14-41. The San Antonio Spurs had a lot of injuries tonight. Most of their starters were actually out. Really, the only guy that actually kind of has consistent minutes on this team that played was Zach Collins. And we saw this game go into double overtime. The Pistons eventually did spread the score out a little bit. The final score of tonight's game was 138-131 in the Detroit Pistons' favor. What are some of your first thoughts when breaking down this game, Ryan?
Initially watching this game, I gotta admit, it was pretty boring. Like I couldn't focus on it. It was just it felt lifeless. That's a weird word to use, but it did. I just was like, the Pistons game is on. Let me go watch it. And then I'm watching it. I'm like, why did I turn this on? But by the end of the first half, heading into the second half, it all of a sudden got lively. And then we see everybody just going at each other. We see Jalen Duren have a career night. Man, he was amazing. Granted, he also played 42 minutes. But 42 minutes, only missed 7 shots, missed 5 free throws, had 30 points, 17 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 4 blocks. Like, my goodness, that one of the best games and happiest games that I've been able to see him play this season. If we're just seeing this now, granted the Spurs suck right now, but if we're seeing this now, I can't wait to see more of him in the future.
Right. And you know, something to be noted too is Zach Collins, their starting center. I mean, he's a pretty savvy vet. Yeah, he's not the most well-known guy by any means, and he's not had many accolades in the NBA. But he's a solid center. I feel like he's right around the same territory as a Mason Plumlee. So I think he's respected, and I think he's somebody that you're addressing on the scouting report. So, it was really nice to see Jalen Duren kind of come into his own tonight and play consistent. It kind of sucked to see him kind of be subbed out the last 2.5 minutes. We had Stu come in. I understand why that happened. He was kind of in foul trouble, and maybe Stewart's going to be a little bit more safe with the ball at times than Duren is. But one thing to be noted about Duren too tonight was we saw Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren kind of mix very well, and I see each week their chemistry getting just that much better and like etching up the totem pole as that nice duo. I think that's really going to be one of our duos of the future. And it's really nice to see them kind of start to play well together, because in a season, I think I've said it before, in a season full of losses, it's those little positives you have to take away. And I think in a team that's struggling, you want to see the chemistry start to get a little bit better. And that's what we're seeing with Jalen and Jaden. Jaden Ivey tonight finished with 17 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds, almost fouled out there. 3 of 15 shooting, which, yes, that's worrisome, but I also kind of want to show how, yes, Jaden Ivey struggled offensively, but finished with 17 points. He did not at any point get discouraged. He kept his composure as far as staying involved. And that for me is very good to see him have struggles, but stay solid and stay mind ready.
Yeah, he had majority of his points at the line tonight, which honestly, if you look at how many free throws he had, and then you look at his field goal and just how many shots he took up and how many he missed, I am looking at the free throws more than anything because free throws wins games at the end of the day. Free throws and defense. And the fact that he only missed one free throw and took 12 of them, that is really good. Granted, he missed 7 3-pointers. He missed a lot of shots. But if he's converting at the line, which you desperately need night in and night out, is guys just making free throws. That was a big reason why we won this game tonight. Our free throws were pretty darn good. Like you had Bogey go 10 for 10 tonight. You had Stu 6 for 8, Duran 4 for 9, Ivy 11 of 12, Killian 2 for 2, Corey Joseph 2 of 3, Hami 4 of 5. We rarely missed a free throw tonight. And that just shows you how much better this team is getting at the free throw line. And that's a very big positive.
For sure. Yeah, Bojan's final stat line for tonight was 32 points, 1 assist, 5 rebounds, which is a little bit more than what he typically has, and then 11 of 24 from the field, which kind of interesting, finishing with 32 points, but 0 for 6 from the 3-point line. In tonight's final stages of overtime, when the Pistons kind of got their space in the lead, we saw Bojan make big plays. He was able to get savvy vet calls offensively and then execute at the free throw line. Is tonight a perfect example of Bojan finding his role on this young Pistons team?
Well, I see it as, yeah, he was finding his role. But this young team, a bunch of our players have not experienced an overtime in the NBA yet, let alone a majority of them haven't even experienced double overtime in the NBA yet. So it really changes some players and how they take on certain situations. Like Ivy, first overtime, it felt like to me that he needed the ball in his hands and that he was trying to do a little bit of everything and try to do a little bit too much. And that caused us to fall back at times and go into second overtime. But just some of these guys, if they get this experience and take it for what it was, you get the win. Granted, it's a bad team, but you learn more characteristics about each individual out of this than what most would think. And so the fact that we see Ivy stepping up in double overtime and making sure he's getting the ball to his guys and making sure he's making the right plays, like that shows you he's learning. And then you have Duran crashing the glass, trying to get the ball no matter what. That shows you he's learning. Stu hitting that big put back off of Bogey's miss that I really think was a pass because there was no way that was going in. But Stu stepping up in clutch situations, that's an experience to learn. All these guys are learning key valuable lessons in this one game alone that you're going to see a long time now from here on out.
Right. We saw the Pistons start out in the first 6 minutes of tonight's game, 2 of 13 shooting from the field. And then they only shot 26% in the whole first quarter. And then right away in the second quarter, shot 57% from the field, really turned it around. In a season full of losing, we have 42 losses on the season. Can you characterize, after seeing stats like this, as the Pistons being resilient?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Because in the going into overtime, it felt like our team was kind of giving up a little bit, and the Spurs were just starting out hot again. And then it's like, oh crap, we're gonna lose. but then they just found a little notch and then just kept pushing through. And that led us to going into second overtime. And then we kept that momentum, which normally at the end of each quarter, we don't keep the momentum. We always slow down and let other team get back into it. And tonight, in going into a double overtime, we did not let the Spurs really get back into it. They had a couple opportunities to do something, but it wasn't significant enough where they closed the lead to being even closer than it was. And that also helped us win the game.
For sure. We saw tonight Hamidou Diallo go out and get 14 points, 5 of 6 shooting in 17 minutes. I really love to see that from Hami. I kind of feel like I talk about Hami a lot in our recaps, but it's just he's really finding his role on this Detroit Pistons team, and it's really nice to see. I'm waiting to see when the Pistons start offering Hamidou a contract because I really hope we start to see him. Okay, he is going to be long term, because I really do think our first couple seasons as making the playoffs and becoming a playoff team, I think Hamidou's on that team. And so I'm really excited to see when Troy Weaver starts courting him in a long-term contract.
I think we may see that heading into this offseason, just in the sense that now we don't have Bay, although that trade might come back to us and that Bay and Kevin Knox might be Pistons again. I don't know if you saw that or not, but even if they do come back, I see Weaver pulling the strings and trying to get Hami back, because Hami just shows you when you give him the opportunity, he's going to be successful and he's going to contribute. And just like a game tonight, yeah, he played 18 minutes in a game where you had Duran, Ivy, Killian, Stu, Bogey, Livers, even playing 30 plus minutes. So even though when you have those guys playing that amount of time, but yet Casey still allowed Hami, Burks, Corey Joseph to still make an impact on the game. When you have 3 vets that you can help like impact the game and change it, it really helps, because just going into overtime alone tires out a lot of guys. And so when you have 3 fresh legs coming off the bench that can contribute right away, that's very big.
We kind of mentioned Zach Collins earlier in the podcast. I'm looking at the box score right now. It kind of hit me by surprise. He finished with 29 points. He did eventually foul out, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 11 of 16 shooting in 35 minutes. Okay, Zach Collins. I kind of like that. What did you think of his play tonight?
Oh, Zach Collins, when you give him the opportunity, he's going to go do his thing. And I respect him for that, because he's bounced around from a couple NBA teams now. He's never really stuck around. Most notably, he stuck around probably the longest in Portland, but even there, he's been the same player. Yeah, he's been nothing spectacular, but he still works his tail off, and you can really respect and appreciate that. And another big that I like on the Spurs is Gorgie Dang. Gorgie Dang is one of the better, well-known vets in the league, and I loved him in his time in Minnesota. But those two on a young team like this are very crucial and help developing certain guys.
For sure. It's cool to see. I mean, I've always been a fan of Gorgie Dang for some reason. He's always kind of stuck out in my head. But it's cool to see when guys step up in a game like this, when there's so many people on the injury report. It's really nice to see that. We kind of were mentioning Jaden Ivey a little bit earlier in the podcast. I wanted to just make note that he had his 13th tonight, finishing tonight's game. He had his 13th double-digit in a row game. So that's really nice to see him showing that, okay, he can get double digits consecutively in his rookie year. I think, yes, we're having a losing season right now. And, there's still kind of in question this trade with James Wiseman. But there's a lot of positives you can take away from this young Pistons team when you get in the nit and grit of the box score and when you're watching the games. And I think if you have a super negative outlook on this Pistons team, I just don't think you're looking deep enough.
Yeah. I honestly hate to say this, but it felt different in a good way, not having Sadiq out there. I don't know how to explain it. It comes off as it looks weird me saying that because I love Sadiq, and some Pistons fans, you're probably going to disagree with me in saying that, but it just I don't know. It felt different, and it felt good in a different way, just in the sense that we were able to space the floor more frequently, and when we have Bay in the game, it's kind of like the perimeter is really just all jammed together. And then we have Duran and Stu trying to fight for room in the paint, and they can't spread out because the perimeter is just taking up so much space already. And so when you're not having to worry about Bay, you take him out of the picture, and that allows Stu to come out and gives a wide open paint for Duran to do his thing. And we really
Preach,
saw that
Ryan.
tonight.
Preach, Ryan. Preach.
I know, but it just shows you. I'm not trying to say that I don't miss Bay because I love Sadiq, but it just we had a logjam around the perimeter with Bay in the game, and I think taking him out really allowed us to hit the paint more frequently, get Stu out, let Stu take some of those shots from outside. He took 6 threes tonight. I'm not complaining. I mean, he made one, that's it, but that's fine. That allows
Okay.
him to develop his three more and become the stretch four that we want him to be. That allows Duran to go out and be a beast in the paint like we know he can be. That allows Bogey and Ivy and all of these guys to drive in the paint where, yeah, you can still have a kick out with Ivy, you can still have a kick out with Killian, you can still have a kick out with Stu and Bogey. I feel like it opened up our offense more without Bay tonight. And I'm not saying I don't miss him because I do. He's going to be a great NBA player for years to come. But I just feel like without him, it felt more clear, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And, one thing, I do agree with that. The spacing was a little bit better. But something we see a lot with Sadiq too is when he gets the ball, he just demands a lot of ball time. And sometimes our offense slows down when he
Yep.
gets it because, okay, let's say he catches it in the paint, he's trying to back down a smaller defender. Well, then all our other four guys, all they're doing is standing around. There's nobody cutting. Like our team hasn't developed that yet. And so when Sadiq gets the ball at the 3-point line or in the paint, he's kind of trying to do his DeMar DeRozan-esque one-on-one moves, and then
Yep.
our whole offense becomes stagnant. So that's something I noticed, that when Sadiq's not slowing down our offense and Ivy is running our offense, he shown that he can go out and get 8 assists and that he can really run an offense very well. So I think Sadiq and Ivy don't necessarily really complement each other well. I think Killian plays well with Sadiq because they've played with each other nearly 3 years now. But I think we saw Ivy excel a little bit more without Sadiq in there.
Yeah, we had 29 assists tonight, which
Yeah.
is more than normal. It really is, and that's sad. It really is very sad. We shouldn't just have 29 assists. But
Right.
it just shows you how we are able to space the floor and facilitate much better without Bay in the lineup. And it would have been good to see if Bay would have been injured at some point recently to see what we saw tonight. Because who knows, Weaver would have probably pulled the trigger sooner, or it just would have allowed us to learn what this team needs and help suit Bay in a different role to better our team rather than trading him. But the point is, we looked better tonight. Everybody played better tonight. Not one player really had a bad game for us. You could argue Killian had a bad game, but Killian's not the guy to go out and drop 20 every night. He's
Right.
more of the guy like a Draymond Green-esque player where he's going to work his tail off everywhere else on the court. It may not show up in the box score, but you're going to know that he's there. So nobody played bad tonight, and that's what you can really appreciate out of this recap for this game.
For sure. I'm going to throw out one statistic and then I'm going to throw it right back to you, Ryan, to finish up today's recap. There are only teenagers in NBA/ABA history with 30 plus points and 15 plus rebounds in a single game. Those 4 guys are Moses Malone, LeBron James, Paulo Banchero, and the 313's very own Jalen Duren. So they threw that up on the TV during the game. I just wanted to make note of that in today's recap in case you missed the Bally Sports television program. But I thought that was a cool statistic. Whenever I see something with one of our rookies or young guys and LeBron's in the conversation or a Moses Malone, dude, by all means, you got to make mention of that. Any last takeaways or comments before we wrap up today's recap, Ryan?
Jalen Duren is younger than Paolo Banchero, so realistically, it's really only Moses Malone, LeBron James, and Jalen Duren in my view. Because don't get me wrong, Paolo is good, but I'd rather have Duren.
It's a point to make. I like that point. I like that point. So today's final score of the San Antonio Spurs versus the Detroit Pistons was 138-131 in the red and blue and black Detroit Pistons favor. Before you leave, make sure to like and subscribe and go buy some Revved Up 906 merch. Go support Grind Clothing Co. You can find those links in the description below or in our YouTube bio. And make sure to go follow Grind Clothing Co. on Instagram. I heard their owner is a pretty cool guy. So check them out.
He's pretty cool.
Right. We will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.